From Rhiannon and me, welcome to the programme.
First tonight, a mother from Essex says that she warned the Northamptonshire buggy manufacturer Maclaren 18 months ago that their products could be dangerous.
Liz Harmer's daughter Olivia had the tip of her finger sliced off in the hinge of her Maclaren buggy. Now she's among a group of 15 families in Britain preparing to sue the company.
Well, Neil Bradford has been following the story and joins us now from Northampton. So Neil, what impact are these safety concerns having on the brand?
Well, here at Little Urchins in Northampton, which has only been open a few months, they're not stocking Maclaren buggies yet because they say there simply isn't an appetite among parents. Now, the company has been criticised for not acting soon enough over safety concerns. But when we bought this Maclaren buggy from a high street retailer today, they did warn us of potential concerns around the elbow joint here and advised us we could buy a cover from the manufacturer. But looking at some of the other models on the market today, they do appear to have very similar catches as well. But this has caused severe damage to a brand that has been around in Northamptonshire for more than 4 decades.
18 months ago, Olivia Harmer from Manningtree in Essex sliced off her fingertip in the hinge of her Maclaren buggy. When her parents complained, they were told it was an isolated incident. But they're now one of 15 families planning to sue Northamptonshire-based Maclaren.
We wrote to them and our response that we received back was basically implied operator error, that we had somehow been at fault for not making sure our 20-month-old baby stood completely still while we assembled the pram, which made me so angry because people are only human and it doesn't matter how fantastic a super mum or nan or whoever you are, you can't watch your child every second of the day.
Safety concerns first came to light in the US. The company, which has its UK base in Long Buckby near Northampton, announced a recall of 1 million buggies after reports of 12 children having parts of their fingers cut off.
At first glance, it's difficult to see how a child can get their fingers caught in this catch. But if the pushchair is not fully open, it's quite easy to get their finger inside, as demonstrated with this carrot. And when the pushchair is fully open, the results are quite dramatic.
5 years ago, Liz Mayall's daughter lost the top of her finger in a Maclaren pushchair. At the time, the mum from Stoke Goldington in Buckinghamshire thought it was just one of life's accidents. She's not part of the group lawsuit, but is angry other families have suffered too.
I thought accidents just happen. You know, it was very distressing for my daughter, but she's fine now. She's fixed and she's got over it and she's okay. But actually, I don't ever want this to see happen to any other family. It's just got to stop.
In a statement, the company said millions of parents use Maclaren buggies according to instructions safely every day. An injury to even one child is something we regret, which is why we have committed to provide elbow hinge covers free of charge to all Maclaren consumers. One brand expert believes the company needs to do more to save its reputation.
It's impossible to know at the moment what effect this crisis will have on the brand in the long term, but Maclaren is a very well established and very well respected brand of buggies. So I think there's every chance that the brand can recover, but only if it addresses the issues. You can't run from them.
Maclaren insists its buggies are safe if used correctly. All they have to do now is convince worried parents. Neil Bradford, Anglia News, Northamptonshire.
Well, next, tributes have been paid today to a Suffolk soldier killed in Afghanistan.
Lance Corporal Adam Drain of the Royal Anglians died in Helmand province on Monday, the 100th death suffered by British forces in Afghanistan in the last year.
The 23-year-old grew up in the small village of Stanningfield near Bury St Edmunds, where almost everyone's been touched by his death, as Claire McGlasson now reports.
In today's headlines, he is the 100th British soldier to be killed in Afghanistan this year. But in Stanningfield near Bury St Edmunds, he's a local lad being mourned by a community. Today, the parents of Lance Corporal Adam Drain asked a family friend to speak on behalf of the village.
It's a small community of about 300 or so people, and most of the people in the village knew Adam and have seen him growing up. And everybody is absolutely shocked and devastated, and you never think that it's going to happen to somebody you know.
Lance Corporal Drain was killed by small arms fire on Monday. He'd been in Afghanistan for 2 months, serving with the 1st Battalion, the Royal Anglian Regiment. Today in Parliament, Gordon Brown paid tribute to his bravery.
My thoughts, and I know the thoughts of the whole House, will be with his family and friends.
In a statement issued by his parents, Desmond and Jackie, they said they wanted to honour his profession, which had taught him the true meaning of courage and self-sacrifice.
He was very proud to be a soldier. He loved his job and he believed in what he was doing. He believed that he was keeping us safe at night, and I believe he was keeping us safe at night. And for that, you can only honour the guy.
Tributes came from right across the village today, but a local councillor seemed to sum up the mood of many when he said, "Whatever impression people may have of soldiers as big, tough people, they should know they're simply like the boy next door, just as Adam was." Claire McLaughlin, Anglia News, Stanningfield, near Bury St Edmunds.
Now, the first of our two special reports on climate change and how it could affect East Anglia over the next 100 years.
192 countries are represented at the Copenhagen summit, trying to thrash out a new agreement on global warming.
Yes, with rising fears over sea level change, Malcolm Robertson has been to Holland to see how the Dutch protect themselves. Like us, they suffered huge casualties in the 1953 floods.
Well, their philosophy is to keep out the sea at all costs. It's very different to this part of the world, though, where we're prepared to let it breach some parts of our coast.
It could be Holland. It's actually a low-lying part of Norfolk. Historically, there have been close ties between the Dutch and East Anglia, links tragically evident in 1953 when both suffered huge casualties following a North Sea surge. 300 died along the east coast of England. The Dutch death toll was almost 2,000. But there are fundamental differences in how they deal with the sea. Since 1953, the Dutch have invested a colossal amount in trying to keep it out. Quite a contrast with the way some defences along our coast have been left to crumble in front of an eroding coastline. It's easy to see why the Dutch build their sea defences so high. More than half the country's population live below sea level. It's estimated that by the end of this century, the sea could have risen by 1.4 metres, and by 2200 could be as much as 4 metres. Those are worst-case scenarios. Experts in Holland and England admit the sea will rise. It's by how much, and how confident we can be that our respective defences hold. In Holland, I met Han Vreeling, a professor of civil engineering at the University of Technology in Delft and a world authority on flood control. He admits to being amused at the recent controversy surrounding the University of East Anglia's Climatic Research Unit. As a sceptic, his view is that there are scientists around the world exaggerating the impact of climate change.
I think that might well be the case, because this is also in the structure of more modern science that you get only funding for serious proposals. And of course, serious proposals should mention climate change, otherwise you can't name it serious, do you?
He's been involved in creating huge structures that protect the Dutch coast. Holland's philosophy is protect land at all costs. He acknowledges that's more difficult to sustain in East Anglia.
I think you have to look at it from a cost-benefit perspective, and that's also what the Ministry of Environment does in England. And if there are few people and the economic intensity is not so big, then it might be wise to give it over to the sea and to have new nature areas.
Which is what they've done at Abbots Hall Farm in Essex. In 2002, the seawall by the Blackwater and Cone estuaries was deliberately breached. Not a wholly popular local move, as David Smart from the Essex Wildlife Trust acknowledges, but he says the project has proved its worth.
Tens of thousands of gallons of seawater coming in onto former arable land to recreate salt marsh, mudflats and saline lagoons. Coastal realignment isn't the right thing to do on the whole coast. It has to be in the right place, it has to be planned, and where that happens, then you can get very good results.
Further up the coast, accusations that not enough's being done to protect the area around Southwold, articulated in a protest coinciding with Gordon Brown's holiday in Suffolk 18 months ago. Local landowner Andrew Bloys claims the Environment Agency is retreating from its obligations and predicts disaster if flood defence work isn't carried out.
Nearly a third of the beaches of Walberswick and Southwold could be at risk if work is not done and maintained upstream. And the impact on a £25 million tourist economy is quite frightening if that was to happen.
The Environment Agency is well used to such criticism. Karen Thomas told me they can learn from the Dutch, but says there's thousands of miles of English coastline to protect compared to just a few hundred in Holland.
People talk about the Dutch defences and see them as a very safe alternative, but there are reasons why people enjoy living by the coast, and I think today's a really good example of some of the beautiful coastline that we've got around the country. And when you have a great big defence, it means that it blocks not only the view but also some of the relationships people have with the coast as well.
With varying levels of concern, there are quite different approaches in how the two countries keep the sea at bay. Who's right may only become apparent once the current generation's gone. Malcolm Robertson, Anglia News, Holland.